There's more to camping with your kids than just hot dogs and s'mores. People always ask me what I mean by this statement. When I talk about people, I talk about people that I know, people that I interact with on a daily basis. They can't seem to wrap their heads around why I choose to do the hard things with my kid over the simple, here's an iPad, let's rock and roll. I'm Breven from Empty Spaces Outfitters. You are here today because you want to know why, when you go camping, there's so much more to camping with your kids than meets the eye. There are 4 things you should be focusing on when you take your kids camping. The first thing that you need to focus on is getting into the right frame of mind for camping with a kid. So when we're single and ready to mingle, we tend to focus exclusively on ourselves. We focus on doing the things that please us instead of the people around us, unless you're a very selfless person. Are you? What I mean by this is when we have a kid, our responsibility goes up tremendously. For example, when you have a kid, let's say your kid is 3 years old and you decide to go camping with the kid, then you are going to have to take full responsibility to start out with. You're gonna have to take full responsibility for that kid, and you're gonna have to know every single movement, action, thought that kid has. And the reason why I say thought is because a 3-year-old is not the steward of their own mind. You are still responsible for them. If the kid, this might be a little rant for you, but if the kid is choosing to be disobedient to you, if the kid is, you told them no, they can't have that, but then they start screaming and they start elevating the situation and you don't take control of their thoughts and bring them back down to a good place, that's on you. You're the parent, you're the adult. I'm 26 years old. If I can't take care of a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, then that's on me, it's not on them. But let's go back to camping. So when you go camping, you have to take full responsibility for your kid. The reason being is because the outdoors is an entirely different space than the cozy, soft environment of your house. So I take my son out camping and there's grizzly bears, there's mountain lions, there's wolves, there's coyotes, there's all these things, all these predators that we don't have in the city or at my house, in his bedroom. There's nothing there to kill him. There's nothing there that wants to eat him. But when I take him outside, there are so many things that would like to have him as a snack. Now, me as a father, I have decided to take full responsibility for my son. That means that I will be with him when he decides to wander off into the woods. I'm not going to keep him from wandering off because this is part of growing up and exploring, but I am going to follow him and make sure that no grizzly bear decides to have him as a snack. Crunch, right? That is responsibility. It's saying, hey, you probably shouldn't touch the poison ivy. And it's also realizing that I have to know what the dangers are to protect him from in order to make sure he doesn't get hurt. Because if he gets hurt, that's on me. One of the things that our culture has a problem with is, one, taking responsibility. And within that responsibility framework is gun ownership. And for a lot of people, this is near and dear to their hearts because they've had accidents with their kids where there were firearm misfires. And when you're outdoors, especially in Montana grizzly bear country, there's gonna be grizzly bears and you have to have a gun on you and bear spray. If you decide to take your gun off, put it on the ground in the tent, and the kid gets into the tent, and heaven forbid something bad happens where they accidentally misfire the firearm and somebody gets hurt, that's on you as a parent. That's on me. If my son does that, that's on me. That is responsibility. I take full responsibility for everything that he's done, and the stakes are elevated because we're in a different environment that's significantly more dangerous than being in town. Number 2 is choosing the right spot. When we decide to have children, we are forsaking our right to be selfish. One of the things that we do when we go camping is we like to choose to hike 14ers and to go scuba diving and do all these crazy things that a young kid just simply cannot do. And we have to decide to set aside our selfish pride, to set aside what we want, to set aside so many different things in order to be there for our kid. And one of those things is choosing the right spot to go camping. Your kid probably would rather go paddleboarding on a still lake than they would like to go down the rapids of whatever river you're thinking about hitting up on your raft. That means obviously when your kid gets older, that's a different ball game. But when your kid is young, you have to compromise with the things that you do. One of those things for me that I had to compromise on was doing massive hikes. I do have a hiking backpack, but I'm not going to force my kid to be in that backpack for up to 8 hours a day just so I can do this crazy hike. If I want to do that, I'll do that on my own. But that's another ball game. That's not camping, dude. That's hiking. That is doing something else, backpacking, right? Number 3 is preparing with your kid. When we get all of this knowledge, all of these things kind of coalesce into what we believe and what we know, we inherently understand that we need to fill up our gallons of water so that we can have water when we're in the woods. But when you have a kid, they just take that for granted. And the reason being is because we haven't taken the time to prepare with them the adventure that they're about to have. One of those things, like I said, is water. I will teach my son that he needs to help me get all the water in the jug and into the truck so that when we're out in the woods, we're not dehydrated Nelly over there just dying from heat stroke and dehydration.
I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. I need it!
Right? So one of the things that I do is I get a checklist and I slowly work through to make sure that I'm not missing anything. When my son is old enough to understand what a checklist is, he's 2 years old. I'm gonna systematically walk through every single step and make sure that we're putting that item into the vehicle that we're taking camping. And while I do that, I'm also gonna teach him why we're bringing each of these things. That's gonna get buy-in from him. That's gonna teach him. And this ultimately brings me to my next point, which is we should be teaching our kids everything that we know about the outdoors and about camping. The reason being is because I have personally experienced this. I had to, and I still have to, learn the hard way a lot of different things that people have been taught by their parents or somebody else who decided to mentor them. I've had to learn all of these things about the outdoors and camping. I didn't know how to set up a tent 2 years ago. I had to learn all of these things the hard way because nobody ever taught me, right? They might have taught me, but I maybe wasn't listening. Anyways, when it comes down to it, we as parents, and this is not it is and it isn't a parental lecture. It's about the outdoors, but it's also for the parents who decide to put their kids on iPads and on iPhones instead of being with them and teaching them everything that they know, teaching them how to be successful individuals in their life. This is the truth, all right? We as a society have gotten to the point where we would rather our kids look into this rectangular box than interact with the world around them. We don't want them outside camping with us. We don't want them trying to learn from us. We don't want to take the time and energy to teach them. I recently had a conversation with somebody who said, Yeah, I grounded my kids from video games, but it didn't work because then they just came to bother me. All I could think was, why aren't you teaching your kids? Right? We should be teaching our kids everything that we know about camping. We should be teaching them everything we know about everything. This is our number one priority. When it comes to camping, it's so much harder to get the knowledge and the information and skills and experience than it is in some other aspect of the world. Camping, you have to have a mentor in order to get good, or you're gonna have to learn through the school of hard knocks and experience whatever. You're gonna have to go down that path. But wouldn't it have been nice if your parents had taught you from a very young age that you need to be responsible, to care, to prepare, and to learn to earn, to return, so that when you actually become a parent, like when my son becomes a parent, that he is going to be able to pass on the knowledge that I gave him. And if he passes that on to his kids, those kids are going to know that I'm the one that gave him that information in the first place, right? We talk about generations. We talk about we don't have longevity in this life, and everything that we have doesn't matter. Well, I submit to you that everything that we have does matter. What we need to do is teach our children, give them the experiences, the knowledge. We can even give them the gear if it's the right gear. Talking about saddles here that are gonna last generations. Imagine this, you teach your kid everything that you know, and then they teach their kid, and they teach their kid, and they teach their kid. And each generation, that wealth of information gets bigger, and they know that it came from you. Then your great-great-great-grandchildren are gonna be super set up to do the things that you love, and they probably will love too. That's pretty much anything in life. Teach your kids everything that you know, and they will reap the rewards. All it takes from you is a little patience and a little understanding that your kid is only 6 years old and he doesn't have the same experience as you do. That is the meaning of existence right there, besides worshiping God. The points that we hit on taking responsibility for your kid, knowing where they are, not letting them be the next grizzly bear snack on the news. Number 2, we hit on choosing the right spot. And one of the best ways to choose the right spot is to get our free camping guide on our website, emptyspacesoutfitters.com. Number 3, we have preparing, checklists, being able to explain why we're bringing certain items to camp and getting that buy-in from your kid. And finally, number 4, and I would argue the most important reason, is teaching them everything that you know so that they are prepared to live the life that they want to live when they want to live it and pass that on for generations. And if you are like me 2 years ago and you have no idea what you're doing in this outdoor world, then you should hop on over to our website, get that free camping guide. We also have a hunting guide, a cast iron guide, and a weapons guide. And that's gonna take you from being a beginner to at least knowing the basics and understanding where you stand in the world of the outdoors. This is Breven Ingleson from Empty Spaces Outfitters. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed putting it together. If you would be so kind to leave a like, a comment, and a subscribe, that would be awesome. Make sure you check out the next video. Adios.